Hey friends, welcome to Faithful Life Podcast. I'm Matt Jacobson of faithfulman.com.
And I'm Lisa of club31women.com. We've been married for 27 years.
We have 8 fantastic kids.
And we have a deeper, richer love than when we were married.
Yep, it can happen. And it can happen for you too. So join us each week as we explore what it means to be a biblical Christian in our marriage, parenting, church, and culture.
It's about growing, maturing, and being equipped for the faithful life God is calling you to.
So let's get started. Greetings, gentle lords and ladies.
In other words, hello, friends.
Hello, everybody. Good to be with you today. Hey, as we get started, I wanted to give a quick shout out to Junior Davis. Listen, buddy, thanks so much for your support. You are such a great champion of the podcast, and we just want to say thank you. We really appreciate you. We appreciate all of our listeners, and we super appreciate the reviews we've been getting. I want to read one right now. It's, it's by MP Jones, and it says, "Must listen. My husband and I have been married for almost 3 months." Oh, newlyweds.
Yeah, that's
okay,
fun.
There we go. As newlyweds, this podcast has been an invaluable resource as we've started our marriage. We both listen to it on our way to work and then discuss it at dinner in the evening. It's been a great conversation starter and has helped us start to lay a strong foundation for our union. Can't recommend highly enough. So anyway, thank you so much for that review.
That's a blessing.
Just want to say, listen, folks, your reviews are powerful, super encouraging to us, but they're a powerful way to get the word out to other people about how you're enjoying the podcast. So if you are, would you please take the time to write a written review this week? And we just want to say thank you in advance, and thank you for the people that already have. But hey, babe, what do we have coming up this week?
We are flying out to Nashville for the rest of the week, and we're really excited about it. We have some amazing opportunities, both with some television shows and a radio show, although I have to admit, the radio show, we have to be at the studio at 5:45 in the morning. And for those of you who know, I'm not exactly a morning person. But thankfully, we've got Matt. I'm sure he'll carry us through.
So I'm looking forward to it. It's a 3-hour drive time radio show with Moody Radio. And basically, it's and the name of it is Dawn in the Morning. And so we're going to be with her and hosting the show for 3 hours. I'm looking forward to it. I like those impromptu questions coming at me.
Matt likes that better than I do. But
anyway,
hey, it'll be fun.
So let me see. What else we're doing Today in Nashville. That's live TV. So we've got a little stint on Today in Nashville. And this is all about the 100 Ways books. So 100 Ways to Love Your Wife, 100 Ways to Love Your Husband. So what else are we doing down there, babe?
We're also going to be interviewed by Crystal Payne. Some of you might know her as Money Saving Mom, and she's someone I've followed and admired for many years now. So I'm really looking forward to spending some time in real person with her.
And then we're also going to be on a show called Bridges on the Christian Television Network. So couple of television things, one podcast thing, and one radio thing. So anyway, that's what we're up to next week. We're really looking forward to it.
Yeah, and a couple of these are live, and so you'll just be able to catch them this week. But a couple of them are recorded, and we'll try to remember to let you know when they come out. If you are interested and want to catch us over there, that would be really fun. We'd love to see you in other places as well. So
absolutely. And the tour itself is promoting the books, 100 Ways to Love Your Wife, 100 Ways to Love Your Husband. The gift editions of those just came out. They're gold foil, embossed, and hardcover, really beautiful little gift packages. Great gifts for Valentine's Day. Valentine's Day is coming up.
Yeah, I was just going to say Valentine's is coming up, and it's a perfect opportunity to share these books in your own marriage, maybe just gift them to each other, and or even if you have friends or family that also would be blessed by them, because they're just a beautiful encouragement. We think you'll love them.
We're super grateful for this trip that's coming up. We'd sure appreciate your prayer for us. Would you do that for us while you're thinking of us this week, and even maybe just when you listen to the podcast as it comes out, could you just offer up a prayer for us? We're interested to make sure that what we're doing is communicating accurately and clearly and in a compelling way the truth that is in God's Word relative to relationships as it relates to these books and the messages in these books. We want to represent the Lord well. We want to represent His Word accurately and well. And so if you would join with us and ask for God's direction, favor, and His hand of guidance over this trip, we would sure appreciate that. So thanks very much in advance for those of you who will be praying with us. We want to just say we really, really appreciate that.
Yeah, we sure thank you all for just your support and love has been amazing. So thank you.
All right. So today's topics, we have 8 listener questions, and we thought we would just read the questions and offer our thoughts and answers to those questions. But so, hey, let's go. Let's dive in.
Okay. So, and now these are questions that you all have submitted Some of them these are common questions we've been asked a lot. So we picked out 8 that seem to come up the most frequently. And the first one is, what has been your secret to solving arguments in your own marriage? Is there a way to argue constructively?
Well, the thing is Lisa agrees with everything I say, so that we really never have a reason to argue in our marriage. Right?
You don't believe
It's
that,
simple.
do you?
Works out really well.
Don't you wish? No, seriously. We do have some policies, some keys that we try to follow when we are working out something that we disagree or have different perspectives, such as we try not to work out something in the moment of intensity. So just when that thing comes up and maybe tempers are flaring or emotions are riding high.
She's really talking about herself right now.
Sometimes I am. But truly, it's difficult to have that careful, loving conversation that needs to happen in those moments. So if you just wait till you cool down a little bit, till you're thinking a little more clearly, have a better control of your spirit, then you'll have a better conversation.
And the thing is, these are the things that you should decide before you're in the moment, all right? So you kind of have to have this in place as this is the way we're going to do this. And so that's really what we're suggesting is just sort of put this in your toolkit for having a proper discussion, disagreement, argument. Don't do it in the moment of emotional intensity. Back away. Next, when you're having this conversation, avoid accusations. You do this. This is the way you are. You always do this. Avoid accusing and rather talk about how what happened made you feel and your perspective. We have to accept that there's more than one perspective in an argument, in a disagreement. And so it's very important to recognize that, you're not the be all and end all. So approach it with, this is my perspective. This is what I heard. This is how it made me feel, rather than you are always this, that, or the other thing. No accusations.
And then keep to the point. So don't start adding last month's grievances, last year's troubles. Just keep to this moment, this issue,
Yeah.
and don't stack, is what Matt and I call it, when you start stacking issues. So, hey, we're already talking about this. Why don't we talk about that? And then this thing's been bothering me for a while. Really resist that impulse to bring into everything and stick to that main point. It'll be much more effective and healthy communication if you're able to do that.
No question about it. And if those things were important, you could bring those up at another time. Just don't do it when something sparks in the moment. And then here's the clincher for all of us. Proverbs 13:10. Go just read, go memorize that verse. Proverbs 13:10. It says, "From pride comes contention." If there's a situation between two people, a man and a wife, and there's tension and there's contention, guess what? There's pride there. That's how that's happening. You can't argue with a humble person, as we like to say. Pride comes from contention, the Bible says. So if that's happening, it's because you, as the husband, and you, as the wife, it takes two, remember, you're being prideful. That's why that contention is taking place. So if you own that for yourself, you go, you know what? I don't want to be a prideful person. God hates pride. So just recognize that. It's not okay to have a contentious exchange with your spouse. That is sinful. It's prideful. And God doesn't approve of pride. He hates it. So remember those 4 things, and that will greatly help, greatly improve having a constructive argument as opposed to a destructive conflagration.
All right. Ready for question number 2. Do you believe there are circumstances where a marriage can't be helped? Can all marriages be saved?
Short answer, no. All marriages cannot be saved.
Okay. I think that answer will surprise a lot of people who listen to us. So do you want to?
Well, yes, it's maybe a surprising answer, but the fact is that the answer is not relating to the people involved, the condition of their marriage, and the circumstances of their marriage. It is relating to the hardness of their hearts and their willingness to change. If you're willing to change, then God can change you, you see. So the reason that some marriages cannot be saved is because of the condition of the heart of that person who will not change. And it doesn't matter how destructive the behaviors have been. It doesn't matter how low you've sunk. There are redemption stories out there for you to be encouraged by. God can save from the guttermost to the uttermost. And so your marriage can go from impossible to blessed, but it has to do with the condition of your heart. It has to do with humility of your spirit and whether both of you are willing to work on it according to the Word of God. If that's the case, then absolutely your marriage can be saved. Not only just saved out of the fire, but can thrive, can be blessed, and can just really enjoy the best of what God intended for you. But not when our hearts are hard, and sadly, many people choose hardness of heart. All right, next question. What if one person in the marriage is willing to apply the practices from the book, but the other is not? Now, by the book, it's talking about the books, 100 Ways to Love Your Husband and 100 Ways to Love Your Wife. And so you've got a husband and wife, and one of them is willing to take the book, read it, and apply those things to their marriage. And the other person says, you know what, I'm not having any. I don't want to do it. So that's the setup of the question. Is there a way to convince the other party is what this person's asking?
Well, obviously, ideally, both parties are going to be all in and want to do this and want to work on your marriage together. But it doesn't always work like that. And there is nothing wrong, in fact, it's a good thing to invite your spouse. Would you be willing to do this with me? Will you be willing to give this a try? And I think many times, if approached that way, even someone who's not super excited about the idea, that your spouse will go, okay, for you, I'll do this, or for our marriage, I'll try it. But let's just say they're determined, they're cold, they're closed, and they don't want to do their part for this marriage with these books. You can do so much by you just quietly choosing to work on your marriage on your own by picking up the book, picking out one way that you want to love, express love, show love, think loving thoughts toward your spouse. And I wish I had time to tell you how many testimonies we've heard of marriages that were turned around even when it was only one spouse.
Absolutely.
Who
This
did
is
this
so true.
or started it and then convinced the other person. But even if there was ever only one person, that it's made a dramatic influence on their marriage. So don't be discouraged if you are one of those people that have asked a question like this and feel like, oh, I'm alone in this. Well, first of all, you're not alone.
That's right. God is watching, God is involved, and God is giving you the opportunity to walk in holiness, even if the other person isn't willing.
Yeah, that's right. And even the principle behind 1 Peter 3:1, where it talks about how you can win over your husband just by your behavior without saying a word. And it's in the context of the word, not our books. But the principle is still very much the same in terms of there's so much you can do just by the power of God's love being expressed through you and to him. So don't give up, friends.
A sacrificial love from God through Jesus Christ turned the world upside down. Sacrificial love on the part of a spouse whose partner is not interested can make a huge, massive impact on their life, and on your marriage. So you can absolutely move a mountain that way. And then there are no guarantees, right? We're only responsible for us.
Right.
We're responsible for our part in the marriage and the way we are. But God calls us to walk in holiness regardless of what the other person is doing. So before we dive into our next question, I mean, everybody knows we're all about books around here. We've talked a lot about books today, but I want to just take a moment to ask you if you're mindful of what's happening with the persecuted church around the world. And to that end, I want to bring to your attention a book called God's Hostage. It's a new book by Baker Publishing. The author is Andrew Brunson. And this is the true story of persecution, imprisonment, and perseverance of this pastor, Andrew Brunson, who was in Turkey not that long ago. But the thing is he was in prison in Turkey for 735 days. And it was all based on lies. It was completely wrong that he had been incarcerated in the first place. There were lies told about him. This is a pastor who's gone over there. The call of God came on his life, and he went to Turkey to serve and was involved with the Syrian refugees and also with some of the Kurdish refugees as well. And he just wound up in prison. This is his story of faithfulness, frankly, trauma in the face of persecution. And the beautiful thing about this book as well, because I know many of us as true believers who are interested in where the world is headed and all of the things that we see and the impact that it has on the church. We anticipate a day may come when we ourselves will be faced with very difficult questions in the face of potential persecution. This book is an encouragement to believers everywhere, not only those who have been persecuted, but those who can anticipate at some point you may be called on to make that kind of a sacrifice and give an account of God in the face of real opposition. This is a massively encouraging book and super interesting. So we want to encourage you to get a copy of God's Hostage by Andrew Brunson. And you can just read a little bit about what God was doing in the church in Turkey just very, very recently, as recently as 2018 when he was released. So it's a super good book. So go check it out. God's Hostage by Andrew Brunson. Okay, so back to our questions. What are some things a wife can do to make her husband feel successful?
Oh, that is a good question. That's a very good question. You know, I think this is a very common theme. I have women write this question or some form of it often, just saying, my husband is down, he's discouraged. What can I do to encourage him and build him up? And last night we were actually watching a movie that had this as a major theme. It was actually a really good movie. We hadn't seen it when it was in the theaters, so it's now streaming. And so Sunday nights our family all tends to watch a movie. We make a big bowl of popcorn and we all pick something to watch. And this movie is called Overcomers, right, by the Kendrick brothers.
It's another one of the Kendrick brothers films. And truth be told, probably had lower expectations, I just want to say.
I was unprepared for how much I'd cry.
Oh, yeah. Lisa,
I cried through the whole thing.
Lisa cried a lot in the movie.
Matt
she was
and I
just
cried.
crying. Yeah, you
I
could
looked
see
over.
Lisa, the tears just streaming down her face.
I looked over. Matt's just got the tears. Like, oh my goodness.
It's
We
a
were a mess,
powerful movie.
but in a good way. In a
And
really
a good way, yeah. Really encourage you. Just if you're looking for a good family film, it's really, really good. Oh my goodness. So, yeah.
So one of the themes in the movie was the husband in the film had just received a lot of discouraging professional and personal news that had just brought him to a really low spot. And his wife cared deeply about him. But her first approach to this problem of seeing him angry and defeated was to go out there and just kind of give him a, kind of a
General Patton speech.
Yes. What are you doing? What's your problem? Get with the program. That's definitely a paraphrase, but that was the basic approach. And
But
that
you
didn't
could be in movies, hon. It was compelling.
pretty good.
Yeah.
So it didn't go over very well, which I already saw coming. And then she thinks about it and she repents of it and realizes that was the wrong approach, and then comes back to him and just starts building him up, reminding him of who he is and what she appreciates about him and how she sees God working. And you see him visibly just softening, cheering up. And it was just a short scene, but this is the one Matt and I were bawling in because it was really beautiful. And some of the things that she did, just even that short clip, are the kinds of things that any woman who seeks to encourage her husband can employ.
Well, I think what happened between the first approach she took and then the second is she went and she read some chapters out of 100 Words of Affirmation your husband needs to hear.
She must have.
Yeah, right.
She must have.
That's what she did.
That's right. We got to slip that one in there somehow. But
Anyway,
no, but it really was those words of affirmation, just saying, I'm with you. You are not alone. I know you can do this. Those are powerful words spoken into your husband's life.
another way you can make your husband feel successful is choose contentment. Contentment in your spirit, contentment in your words, contentment with your circumstances. The Bible does say godliness with contentment is great gain, and certainly your husband will be blessed if his wife is content. There's a lot of things in life to be frustrated with, and dishwasher broke down, the car has something wrong with it. I don't know. We could make up a list.
We have a long list.
Everybody has a list, but if you have a content spirit in the face of the frustrations of life and the things that need changing, that is a huge encouragement to a man. A content wife is a massive encouragement.
And closely related to that is just expressing thanks and thankfulness for the little things or the big things that he does, things that you just might even take for granted, but just saying, thank you for doing this for me. Thank you for this kind of man that you are. Mm-hmm. And just pointing out those strengths and those good things, and to remind him that, no, there's a lot of good here.
Absolutely. So those are things you can do to make your husband feel successful. Now, conversely, what are some things a husband can do to make his wife feel appreciated?
Ooh, I like this one.
Yep, absolutely. And we love reader questions because they're so practical and they're just real on the street, everyday kinds of circumstances in marriages. So here's the next one. What are some things a husband can do to make his wife feel appreciated? Well, let me just take that first one, babe. Here's the first thing you can do. Open your mouth and speak. You know, a lot of times we can feel very warmly, very strongly, very appreciatively, very lovingly toward our wives. But all of that is inside. She's not a mind reader. Open your mouth. Express how you feel. Express your appreciation for those daily tasks. Every one of us, man or woman, have things in life that are just the normal parts of the rhythm of life, the daily things we do. A lot of stuff that doesn't really get noticed or appreciated has to be done, to keep things running smoothly. And there it is again, and there it is again. When was the last time you stopped? You just held your wife by the shoulders or the arms and you looked in her eyes and you said, you know what? For A, B, C, and D, just pick whatever they are. Okay. I don't know if it's the laundry that she does. I don't know if it's she made the bed in the morning. Whatever it is that are the things that your wife does all the time, every day, all of the mundane, normal things of life, being appreciated for that kind of faithfulness is super invigorating and powerful in her heart and life. When was the last time you did that? You just said, babe, I want to, look, did you guys have dinner last night? Now, I like to cook. Lisa and I cook together a lot.
Mm-hmm.
But a lot of guys, they have a wife who provides dinner. When was the last time for you guys that you just said, babe, I want to tell you, I really appreciate the dinner that you made. I appreciate the heart behind it. And I appreciate just the perseverance, the diligence, and the faithfulness in doing this over and over and over again for our family. That's the kind of thing that will make your wife feel appreciated by verbally pointing out, noticing these things that she does.
Well, I have to say, when I feel valued, I can go 100 miles on one value statement. Just knowing that it matters, that you notice that it means something. It really goes a long way. So I think that's very true.
Open your mouth and speak. Recognize her contribution to this life that you're living together.
And I hate to bring it around again, but it's your book, 100 Words of Affirmation, your wife needs to hear. That's full of those kinds of statements. Because sometimes guys, I find, when they talk to us, they think, well, I do feel that way. I just don't know what to say or what that looks like. So it's just full of ideas that talk about those kinds of things. And don't worry about how it sounds or, if it feels awkward. Believe me, your wife does not care. She just would love to hear that it matters to you.
Amen. Absolutely. So go to it, guys.
All right. Are we ready for question number 6? You have 8 children. How do you find time to connect? Oh, that's a good question.
Well, here's the fact. All right. You guys ready for a hard fact? Here's the deal. Every last one of us listening to this podcast, every last one of us has time for our real priorities. All right. We need to let that sink in because it doesn't matter if you have 8 or 80 children. Okay. It doesn't matter what your life is busy with. We have time for our real priorities. So, and just to illustrate this, let me ask you a question. When was the last time, and I'll just ask the guys, let's say you're into some sporting event and you got tickets to this event. When was the last time you got tickets to an important sporting event and you just somehow didn't get there on time? Okay, never. All right. When was the last time, if you're a woman or a man, and you went to work because your boss said the night before, we are having a very important meeting at 8, don't be late? Never. You made sure you were there because it's a priority with you. When was the last time one of you ladies missed a hair appointment?
Never. If I could help it.
All right. So here's the thing. We have time for our priorities. So the real question we have to ask ourselves to answer this question is, what is the priority that we have for each other? Because if you don't make it a priority, it isn't going to be a priority in the busyness of, in our case, 8 kids. But even though we have 8 kids, Lisa and I, we spend time together. We make our time a priority together, and we carve it out. And you should tell them about some of the signs that you have to put on the door. And
I have a whole collection of signs that I'll put on our door. It'll be things like don't knock unless you're bleeding or have a fever over 101.
Throwing up, I think they could knock.
Throwing up's one of them. Or I'll, don't come in unless you're willing to risk your life. That kind of thing. Most of them are kind of funny, but most of them are actually kind of true too. And now,
well, they're not all that funny. We used to have 10 kids, so.
Very funny, no. And our kids are older now, so they can read the signs and hopefully respect them. But if you have younger kids, even when our kids were really young, from the beginning, we really wanted to commit and invest in our relationship, knowing that in the long run, that was what's going to have an impact on our family and on loving our kids. So I was thinking back as someone asked me very recently about what did you do when your kids were little, like as in babies, infants, toddlers? And I said, well, even back then, we would have coffee together every morning, him and I'd often be nursing the baby, and sometimes a sleepy toddler would come out and kind of crawl up on Matt's lap, and he would hold the toddler. But it was communicated that this is mommy and daddy's time, so you can be here, but you're going to have to be quiet. You're not part of this conversation, and you just have to quiet and snuggle, or I'll put you back to bed. And they learned real quickly that that was a special place to be and a wonderful, warm, snuggly moment, but it was dad and mom's time.
Mm-hmm.
And during that time, we didn't talk to the kids. We didn't even talk about the kids. This was Matt and Lisa time. And the same is true even in the evenings, even though everything's busy. Matt would come home from work. I'd have dinner, hopefully started, if not finished. And we'd have the initial greeting, dad's home in our case back then. Now we both work from home, but back then it was kind of different. Matt would come home from an office job. And yeah, all the kids, everybody pile on, kiss, kiss. But then Matt and I would go back to our bedroom or go sit, actually probably more sit in the living room, but the kids still had to respect that. And he and I would just sit and just talk for maybe 30 minutes about our day and how did you just get the highlights. And then maybe later in the evening, if there was something deeper that we needed to discuss that wasn't appropriate for the full living room. So those are just little things that we continue to do even to this day, a little more freely now that we've got older kids.
So just remember, dad and mom, husband and wife, you have time for your real priorities. So make your marriage, make your relationship a real priority. And then all of these other things will fall into their proper place and they won't compromise the priority that you have for each other. And that is exactly how Lisa and I managed with 8 young kids. I think we had 8 kids, 12 and under.
Yeah,
if you want to know, how close they were.
Yep.
So it
It's
can
a
be
very
done.
busy time.
It absolutely can be done when it becomes your real priority. All right, next question. Do you both apply the ideas in your book to your own marriage? What are some of your favorites? Okay, so absolutely we do. These books literally are our marriage on display. These books grew out of our marriage. The 100 Ways to Love Your Wife, 100 Ways to Love Your Husband. This is how we live. It is what we purpose to do. And they're in the book because we wanted to share them with other couples. So it absolutely comes out of our marriage. And so let me see, if I was going to talk about some of my favorites.
You can't do number 8. I know
What?
right where you're going.
Oh, I love number 8.
Yes, I know. Okay, pick another one, dear.
All right. Okay, well, number 5. All right. I've had to train myself to listen to Lisa with genuine interest, not because I'm not interested in what she says, but because when I allow my eyes to wander, I allow myself to be distracted by the bug that flew by the window,
He can be easily distracted. Can I say that?
Didn't want him to know, but there you go, folks. But anyway, I have had to train myself to focus on and give Lisa my 100% full attention, because when I don't do that and I let these other things, my phone buzzes, right? It's face down, it buzzes. What's the impulse? Oh, I got to know what that is. Oh, another prank.
Drives me crazy.
Okay. All right. So I've had to learn to discipline myself to communicate with her with my attention in a way that says, I value you, I value what you say, and I am going to discipline myself to give you my full attention. That says love and value to Lisa. So number 5, I love that. Let me see. What's another one? 27. God has given me this amazing, wise, loving, wonderful woman, and I need her counsel. And so number 27 talks about listening to the counsel of your wife. I can't tell you how many times I've been saved from a bad decision or an impulse to do something, just simply because I've learned to go to her, ask her perspective, and got her involvement in her counsel. So I love that one. That's number 27. And then another favorite one of mine, and this is a real critical one, it's number 42, and it talks about the reality, the biblical reality of our actual relationship from God's perspective. We aren't two separate beings. We're actually one entity. We are one flesh, certainly physically, but we're one flesh in terms of the full orbed nature of the relationship. And so that means now that I don't think independently. I don't get to spend my time with, irrespective of how it may impact Lisa. I don't get to make decisions apart from her involvement and thought process. And it means that we do things together. We think together. It's powerful when you have that perspective, what a blessing it is to your spouse that you really do view them as part of who you are and recognize God, what God has said, you're one. And that's had a powerful impact on our marriage, and it will on yours too. So anyway, those are a few of my favorites. How about you, babe?
Okay, so I picked out a few. Number 35, which just says, be filled with joy. And the powerful impact that joy has on your relationship, just that cheerful countenance, that bubbling up that comes from the Lord, not because of who I am. And it has a beautiful impact on our relationship and on you as a person. So I choose joy.
And it's a choice. Yeah, I love that. I choose joy. It's a choice to walk in that. And what a blessing to the family that is, and me personally.
And then number 49, and it was hard to pick, actually. There's so many that I like. But number 49, show appreciation for the many things he does, which we actually talked about just a few questions previous, so I won't go into that one, but it is very powerful. And then number 88, always remain lovers. And that just has to do with the way lovers are, the way they walk by each other and just have to just touch each other in the hall as they pass, or reach for one another, or sometimes in the middle of a crazy evening and so much is happening, Matt and I will just stop and just hold each other until our children are extremely embarrassed. And
that's one of the joys of parenting teenagers.
It is. It's a lovely thing. But because that's what lovers do. They hold on to each other. And even though we've been married for 27 years and we have adult kids, it's still a really important part of our relationship. And I think it's very magical, really.
Absolutely. Righto. Okay, last question. And this is the question. Conflicted couples usually lack intimacy. That's for sure. Do you feel as though the books can not only repair but ignite it? Again, the books, 100 Ways to Love Your Wife, 100 Ways to Love Your Husband. Can the books not only repair but ignite intimacy in a marriage? In a word, absolutely. Now, we know this practically because we have seen it over and over and over again in specific marriages that we are personally involved with. And it's just been powerful. It's been beautiful. And it is absolutely the case that if you will walk in what these books teach, it will ignite intimacy in your marriage. And the reason for that is because, of course, intimacy is a natural part of a healthy marriage.
Yeah, I like that they actually use the word intimacy, because they could have used the word sex, which is the word that everybody uses these days for it, which makes sense. But intimacy to me is so much more full-orbed of a word. It talks about just being close, in mind and in heart and in body. So I think that's an important distinction, really.
Well, and the thing about the book, both books, is that they're talking about the things to do that say, I love you rather than I love me. All right. And so, as we said a moment ago, intimacy is a natural part of a healthy marriage. The books are about walking in a healthy way with each other, a healthy and loving, consistently loving, kind way with each other. And so, yes, the books absolutely will ignite, not only bring back that little waning ember of intimacy in your marriage, but will ignite real fire and passion in your marriage. Hey, everyone, what a great discussion. Really enjoy these discussions, answering these questions and just walking through them. So we've super enjoyed it. We hope you have too. By all means, send in your questions. If you have some questions that you'd like us to include in the next session that we have where we're answering reader questions, what you need to do is send it to contact@faithfulman.com. We'll put it in our little pool of questions that we get from readers, and we'll definitely bring it up. So thank you so much, and we'll look forward to the next time.
Yeah, and we will see you when we get back from Nashville. And thanks again for praying for us. It really means a lot to us to know that you're praying for us, lifting us up during this time of travel and speaking.
Absolutely. And one last thing, please share the podcast on your social media. Would you do that? And when you do, just tag Club 31 Women and Faithful Man. Could you do that? We'd really appreciate it. Just whatever social media platform you happen to be on, screenshot and then share it and tag us. Once again, that's Club 31 Women and Faithful Man. And so just asking you to do that. Thank you so much. And by all means, be sure and leave a written review. If you've not done that yet, please go and leave a review on the podcast. So important. And hey, Great to be with you. Goodbye for now. We'll see you next time.
Remember, our God is our rock and our Redeemer.
He already knows what your week holds. He knows exactly what you're facing.
He loves you and is for you.
So this week, draw near to God, and He will draw near to you.